In this video, we're going to talk about how to do M4 Lab 2. And I've got it here on my screen, and this is what we're ultimately going to create. The dimensions will come in a later exercise. In this exercise, though, we're going to be changing the units to architectural. We're going to be creating some layers and eventually putting some of our lines on different layers and creating those and show you how to do that. And what I'll do is I'll draw this off to the bottom here, but we'll refer to this as we need to. The first thing I'd like to do is get a couple of toolbars that we may be needing for this exercise. One is the O-snap, which I have here. There's another one I want to use. And to pull up toolbars, if we don't have them already, if you go to Tools, under Toolbars, and by AutoCAD, there'll be a flyout there. Click on the O-snap, make sure there's a check by O-snap, and then down below, click on Properties. And it puts it right underneath my toolbar. If I grab it to the left, I can drag it and place it up there. What this allows us to do eventually is to click on some items and change the layer or the colors as we need to. In the exercise, we're told to change our units to architectural units. And to do that, if we go to the Format menu, we'll see Units. And for the length, we want to select Architectural. And they're telling us to do the precision of 1/16 of an inch. That's really fine, but we'll go ahead and do that anyway and say OK. So now as we look at this, I want to break this down into pieces, and I want to do the bottom first. And I think what I'll do is I'll create this line here. It's 50 feet in length. Then I'll go to the next line, which is also 50 feet in length. And we notice that over here on the right side, we see there's a distance between those two lines of 8 inches. So once we draw that first line, we'll do an offset. And then I can go ahead and offset that again 7 feet 1 inch to get this line here. Now, if we look at that line, we're eventually going to have to extend it 1 feet 6 inches to the right and also to the left, but we'll worry about that later. And then what I like to do once I have those lines is to draw the left and the right line. So let's go ahead and attack that now and see if we can at least take care of that part right now. So I'm going to scroll down here a little bit, and for this example, I don't really care where the starting point is. If you feel comfortable starting at 0, 0, you can. That's all right. I'm going to go to the Line command from the Home tab of the ribbon and click on Line. And for me, I'm just going to pick a point any place. It doesn't matter. And I'm going to drag it to the right and type in 50. And you got to make sure you put that foot symbol since we're working with feet and inches. You don't have to put the inch symbol. AutoCAD assumes that if you leave the foot symbol or inch symbol off, it's going to be in inches. So there's 50 feet. And I'm going to hit enter to get out of the line command. So there's my first line. From here, I'm going to go ahead and offset that up. And if we look here again, there's a distance between these two lines here of 8 inches. So let's offset this line up 8 inches. And to do the offset command, I think we've talked about that in past exercises. From the Home tab of the ribbon under the Modify panel, you'll see this button here. It's called Offset. Once we click on that, AutoCAD is asking us what offset value do we want to use. And this is where we can type in 8. And again, since it's inches, we don't need the inch mark. Once we have our distance, AutoCAD is asking what object do you want to offset. And we want to select this horizontal line. I click there. Now AutoCAD is saying which side do you want to go. And as I move my mouse up or down, the line goes and moves accordingly. It creates a copy. So I'm going to move my mouse up here above that line any place and then just left click anywhere. And it puts that line there. Now, if you look at the command prompt, AutoCAD is still in that offset command. It assumes we want to keep on offsetting. In this case, we do want to offset, but we want to change our distance. So I'm going to hit enter to get out of the offset command. I want to get back into the offset command to change the distance to 7 foot 1, which would be this next line here that we're going to be drawing. And you can see 7 foot 1 is the distance. Now, since we just did offset, I can hit enter again, or I can click on the offset from the ribbon under the Modify panel. And as you remember from previous exercises, all commands in AutoCAD are repeating. So if I hit enter, that takes me back into the offset command automatically. It's just a shortcut. So here my offset distance will be 7 feet 1. And you gotta make sure you put that foot symbol there. I hit enter. I click on the bottom line. No, I don't. I click on the top line that we just created. and I'm going to drag my mouse up to the top and left click, and there we have. So I'm going to exit out of that command. I'm going to get back into the line command, and I'm going to play connect the dot here to there, hit enter. I can go back and pick that line again, or if I hit enter again, all commands in AutoCAD are repeating. I pick the endpoint, and I pick this endpoint. I should probably mention if I check my OSNAPs down here on the bottom, if I right click on my OSNAP, go to Object Snap Settings, my OSNAPs are already set to endpoint, center, and intersection. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. Now if I need something else, a midpoint maybe, or a center of a circle, I can use my toolbar that I've got up here docked just below my tabs. So at this point, let's go back up here and see what we've got. What we could do is go ahead and draw our interior lines, and it looks like that's 14 feet from each end, the left side and the right side. So let's go ahead and put those in. What we should be able to do is just use that offset command again, and I click on offset, and we load up 14 feet as the distance. I select the left line, I move to the right and just left click any place. I'm still in the command. If you look at your command prompt, I click on the other line here where it's saying select objects to offset. So I click that line, and this time I move my cursor to the left, anywhere to the left, and you'll see a preview, and then just left click. So I've got, let's escape out of that, and let's look and see what we've got. So it looks like we've got that part. So that was 14 feet from each end. We could also probably put that door in there as well. It looks like from this line here, if we go 11 feet, that's our line, and then from there we can offset that or copy it 3 feet to the right, and then from this line to get the header of that door, it looks like it's 6 feet 8 inches. So let's go ahead and attack that. So we'll offset this 11 feet. We go back to the offset command, and by this time we should be getting quite familiar with that offset command. Type in 11, make sure you put the foot symbol there and hit enter. Click that line, drag your mouse to the right and left click any place. And from here our door is 3 feet, so I go back into the offset command, type in 3 feet. And it looks like our header from the door is offset from this line 6 feet 8 inches up. So let's use that offset command again and type 6 feet 8 inches. And there we go. Now we got some trimming to do right here. So a quick way to trim this is if we go to the trim command, I can put my crossing window, I'll select here, just drag it up there to select all that stuff and hit enter. Once everything's a cutting edge, I can go ahead and get rid of that piece, I can get rid of that piece, and then come up top here and get rid of all these pieces as well. So now it looks like we have the lower portion complete. Next we need to get that roof fixed up. And there's some things we could do. If we look at the picture again up top here, we see this 18 inches or 1 foot 6 inches, same thing. There's an overhang there. And what we could do is come down here and draw a line, draw another line segment on the right side and on the left, but then we'd have 3 lines there on the top. And I think that's a little bit messy. A cleaner way to do that is just to grab this line we've got here, and you'll see it's got these grips. Once you left click on the blue grip, it turns red, or it makes it what they call hot. And as I drag to the right, I see a dimension that's highlighted in blue, which lets me know that I can type a dimension in. So this time I'm going to type in 1 foot 6. So it basically extended my line 1 foot 6 to the right. Now, if you don't see that blue line, make sure on your status bar you've got this dynamic input on. So it should be blue. And if it's blue, you'll be able to grab those grips and type those dimensions in. So let's do the same thing to this side. We click on our line, we see the grips. I left click on that blue grip to make it hot, it turns red. I drag to the left, I see my dimension highlighted in blue. I type in 1'6", enter, and I've got my line there. Now when I click on that, you'll notice it's all one line segment instead of 3 pieces. So again, I think this is a little bit cleaner way to handle this. It looks like from our roof, there is a 6-foot eave there. So we're going to go ahead and offset this line 6 inches. Yeah, that would be that's a big difference there. So we'll go back up the offset command, and we load up 6 inches as our distance. I click on the line, drag my cursor up above the line someplace, anywhere, left click anywhere, our line's drawn. So now we got to close the ends up. So this is where we can go into the line command, pick that endpoint, pick this endpoint, hit enter again to get back in the line command. I can click on that endpoint and that endpoint there. So now all we've got left really are these lines right here, these angle lines. And if we look at this drawing, it gives us a little bit of a hint on what that angle is. It doesn't tell us what the angle is, but we can figure it out by the x and the y distance. So it looks like to get from this point to this point here, we would have to go over 12 inches and then up 6 inches. What we could do here is let's go ahead and offset this line up. Excuse me, I said inches again, I'm sorry, 12 feet and 6 feet. We're going to offset this line up 6 feet. So let's come back down here. As you'll see here, there's all kinds of ways to do this. This is kind of what makes sense to me. There's a lot of offsetting, copying, moving, and trimming. We build these models one step at a time. So I'll go back at the offset command, and I'm typing in 6 feet. There we go. So that's the top of the roof that we've got. Now it's going to be trimmed off on the left side and right side eventually. What I want to do is I want to draw a temporary construction line, and I'm going to go to line command. I'm going to drag it or click it from here and just drag it way up out of the way. It doesn't matter where. So if we come back up here and look, if I were to take that construction line we just drew and moved it or offset it or copied it over 12 feet, we'd have an intersection there that we could play connect the dot with to get that angle. And that's what we're going to do right now. In this case here, we could do the offset, but we haven't done the move command. So let's go ahead and do move. I click on move, select that object, just pick a point any place, drag in the direction I want to go and type in 12 feet. So now I've got that intersection, which will become a point that I can click on to get that angle. And so let's go ahead and do that right now. I click on this line. Let's grab that intersection and that point. So now we've got the angle. This line here I'm not going to need, so let's delete that. This same angle needs to be on the other side, and this is a symmetrical object. And since this line on the bottom is all one piece, I should be able to mirror this line about this line from the midpoint. And let's do that right now. We could do the offsetting and moving on this side, but this is just a faster way to do it. So we come to the mirror command on our modify panel, and this is the object that we want to mirror. I hit enter to let AutoCAD know we're done selecting objects. Now right now my OSNAP is set to endpoint, intersection, and seemed like it was something else, but we can see that it's not finding that midpoint. But since I've got my toolbar up here, I can click on that, and this will give me a one-time midpoint OSNAP. So once I click on that, now I can select that midpoint there. I click there, and if my ortho is on, and to get ortho on, you type in F8, or down below here, you can type in this button right there. That restricts your movement, either top, bottom, left, or right. I drag my cursor up to the top and just left click any place. AutoCAD says, hey, do you want to erase your source object? In this case, no, we don't. We want to keep that line that's highlighted. So I'm going to say no, and no is the default. So I can hit enter. So now I've got that top piece there. And let's go ahead and go in the trim command to trim those edges off. So if we go to the trim command and select that and hit enter, I can now get rid of this piece. and that piece. The last thing we need to do is to draw these two lines here. I forgot one thing here. We need to get these two lines here, which we haven't done. Okay, so let's do that right now. It looks like from this line to that line, it's 14 feet. And if we offset it 1'6" there, and then if I offset it 1'6" to the left, this line right here to this line is going to be 14 feet plus 1'6" plus 1'6", which should come out to 17 feet. And that'll be the same for both sides here. Again, that's 14 feet plus 1'6" and 1'6". 1'6", 1'6" is 3. 3 plus 14, 17. That's where I get the 17 feet. So if I go to the offset command and type in 17 feet, I can click that line. And again, this offsetting command should start becoming second nature to you now. I drag in the side that I want to offset, and I just left click any place. I'm still in the offset command. I'm still at 17 feet distance. Now I'll click this right vertical line, drag it to the left, and just click any place. And now I've got those lines. So what I'm going to do next is to use those points and use these lines, these angles, and try to figure out what the easiest thing to do is, so I don't have to do any other commands. And I'm thinking what I'll probably do is go ahead and do the copy command. Use this as my base point, and I'm going to go all the way over to here to click that point. I'm going to go back into the copy command. This time I'm going to copy this line and hit enter. There's my base point, and then I go to that point. Now from here we just do a trim command, and I'll select these two lines as my trim lines. I hit enter, then I select this line to get rid of, and that line to get rid of that. So there we have our home, the front of our home elevation created. We used some offset commands, some copy commands, move commands. We did a lot of mirror commands, and some trimming, of course, to get that. The next part of this exercise is to create some layers. And as we look at our exercise here, if I can, these are the layers we want to create. Looks like there's an object layer, a dimension, viewport, and TB for title block. And it appears that the dimension layer will be blue, the viewport will be green, and the title block will be number 8. So let's have at it right now. This is fairly simple to do. To get the layer palette to come up, we can go to the Home tab of the ribbon and go to the Layer panel. We select Layer Properties, and this comes up. Now I can grab this palette and drag it out a little bit, and I can click this button here so it stays, so we can keep an eye on things. Up here at the top, we've got a button that says New Layer. We can do some freezing and delete layers and some other things, but this is the main button we want to click. So I'm going to click here, and as soon as I do that, it creates a layer and it calls it Layer 1. So that's the default name that it gives it. I'm going to type in Object and hit Enter. I'm going to click on New Layer again, or if you hit Enter, it creates another layer called Layer 1. And this one is going to be Dimension. And I can click that button or hit Enter. I'll just go ahead and click the button this time. There's Layer 1 again. This name is called View Port. And one more time, one last one. Looks like this one's called T-Block. Now the one thing we've got to make sure is we have to change the colors of these also. So if I go to the object layer here and click on white, for my screen it shows the white being the color white, and that's because I've got a black background. It looks like whoever did this documentation here, they probably had a white background, so that's why the white comes in black. So that might be a little confusing at first, but so we'll go ahead and keep object. Object is good. Dimension, we'll click on that little swatch there, and we'll just click this blue right there. So that's blue. Our viewport layer, we click on that color swatch. That's going to be green. And the title block, says it's 8. Let's see, which one is 8? 8 is to the right of white or black, depending on what your background is, and click that. So now we have our layers: object, dimension, viewport, title block, and depth points. I'm going to do one thing here a little bit differently. When we drew this, if you look at our layers here, layer 0 has a green checkbox to the left of it, and it's in white. So when we started drawing here, we weren't too particular about where we were drawing, what layer we were drawing on. We probably should have been, but this is what the exercise had us doing. And if I were to change that layer 0 to some kind of a pretty pink color here, and say OK, and if I drag my palette out of the way here, let's see, I'll go ahead and see if I can dock it back here. Let's dock it to the left again. So now it's a pretty pink color. And when I click on this, it tells me from the layer panel here that that's on layer 0. And if I select all of these guys here and look at my layer panel, it tells me it's layer 0, and the color is by layer. And what that means is, however we have our layers color set up in our layer properties, that's what color it's going to take. Now this can get kind of complicated. We could still override that. We're not going to worry about that for the time being. But what this allows us to do, when our layer 0 is a different color, it tells us really quickly that we've drawn something on layer 0. And one of the rules of thumb in AutoCAD is you probably don't want to draw too many things on layer 0. If you do, you want to have a good reason, and there are good reasons for it, but drawing an elevation floor plan is not one of them. So what we need to do now is change that to that layer called object, which is color white. So one quick way to do that is to select all of our objects here, and we could go into properties and change the layer. Or if you got your properties, or what you could do is just come up here to your layer panel, hit that drop down and select object. So now all these items are on a layer called object. So again, we used some editing commands and drawing commands to create this floor plan. Then we created some layers, gave the layers different colors, and then we selected all these objects and changed them to the object layer.